It's all to do with like cults and monsters, and it's so good. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten, and today we are doing my June reading wrap up. I can't believe it's the end of June already. It has gone so fast this year, it is ridiculous. But the reading wrap up, we do it as a smash or pass, so I tell you a little bit about the books that I've read and whether I would smash or pass. It's a lot of fun, it's pretty simple, you know what a reading wrap up is. Let's get straight into it. I'm actually going to mention a book that I'm in the middle of reading at the minute, and that's Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This will be in my July wrap up as I haven't finished it as of yet. But I am liking it. The first 12 chapters have been really good, and based on these first 12 chapters, this is definitely the R.F. Kuang book for me. However, I've heard some different things about the next few chapters. This is a buddy read over on my Discord, but just to give you a brief overview, is we're following June, and June is someone that is a struggling writer, and she has a best friend, as a friend, called Athena, who is not a struggling writer. She's doing very well. But Athena dies, and June takes Athena's manuscript and passes it off as her own. This book looks into a lot about racism, cultural appropriation, the publishing industry. There is a lot of things to talk about in this book, so it's made for a really interesting buddy read because of all the discussions. I haven't finished this just yet. I will be finishing it hopefully this week, but this, whether it'll be a smash or pass, will be in July's wrap up. Based on the first half, I'm going to say smash. Hopefully it stays that way. But let's get into the ebooks that I've read this month. So starting off with Mother of Death and Dawn by Carissa Broadbent. This is one that I actually started in May but kind of brought over into June, and unfortunately this is going to be a pass. This is the third and final book in a trilogy, and yeah, I feel like I've mentioned this book already in a wrap up, and I don't know why. I feel like I've mentioned it in last month's wrap up. No, that was because I was in the middle of it. That's why. But yeah, this is the third book in a trilogy, and I really enjoyed the first two books. We've got two main characters. One is Tasana, and she is a slave that kind of bought her freedom out, and she's trying to save the rest of the slaves that she left behind. To do this, she is going to this other country and asking them to fight for them and to free them. But that is nowhere near as straightforward as what it should be, because of course they don't want to do something for nothing. And then we also have Max's perspective, and Max is someone that used to be a kind of like a colonel in the army for this place that's like, we'll help you if you do this. And he was very much like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. There's magic involved. There is a lot going on. There's a love story. Problem is the third book was just too long. It felt so drawn out and so repetitive. I enjoyed all the twists and turns in the second book, and I think because I loved the second book so much, this third book was just a bit of a letdown. So yeah, that's a pass, unfortunately. Next up we have Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, and this is a smash. I loved this, and you're probably tired of hearing about this if you've watched my weekly reading vlogs, but I loved this book so much. It's so good. So this is a horror book, but it's an oceanic based horror. We're following a wide range of characters, but it's really easy to follow actually, in the Marina Trench. Now the book starts off with the fact that this boat went out to film a mockumentary about mermaids, not believing that they're real, but something then happens to that boat and everybody dies, and the boat is just left eerily empty. They want to know what's happened, and so they've commissioned a second going, but this time with loads of scientists, with loads of security, to find out exactly what is going on in the Marina Trench. Like, what is there? Is it mermaids? Is it something else? And that's what they set off to find, and oh golly do they find. It's a really good book. It is very science heavy because you're following marine biologists and different scientists all to do with the ocean, and you're learning a lot about the impact of climate change, of overfishing, the biology of different animals, and it questions a lot of different things, and I loved all of that. I thought that was fantastic. And then of course you have the horror element to it, and it was kind of like a slowly creeping sense of dread that you're getting, and then the ending and everything that happens. It's a great book. It started off a whole new genre that I didn't realise I liked, which is science oceanic horror. It's a weird one, but I really enjoyed it. It's so good. So yeah, loved this book so much. I have not stopped talking about it, and literally every update I was giving was, oh my god, this is so good, because I was enjoying it so much. It was fantastic. So of course this has to be a smash. And then we have Our Wives Under the Sea, and that's by Julia Armfield, and I picked this book up on the basis that this was recommended because it was similar to Into the Drowning Deep and Annihilation. Now, I've read Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. This was a few years ago though via audiobook. I definitely want to reread it and continue on with that Southern Reach trilogy. I think it's a really interesting trilogy. It's definitely something I want to do. However, as much as yes, I can say there are parts that link to Annihilation, I would not say there's any real connection to Into the Drowning Deep, apart from the fact that it's taken place near the Marina Trench. So you're following two different perspectives. You have Leah, who is I think it's a marine biologist again, where she's going down in the submarine. She's there to observe and report back on different life forms. However, her 3-week research project turns into 6 months, and her perspective, you're getting her telling the tale of what's happened. Then you have Mira's perspective, and Mira is Leah's wife. Obviously she's been waiting for Leah to return, and you're seeing the lead up to them being like a couple and seeing their relationship grow, and then you're also seeing the realities of Leah's back, but she's not back properly, discussing a lot of grief and things like around that. I would actually say that this book is more Lovecraftian than Into the Drowning Deep. H.P. Lovecraft, I'm going to be talking about his works in a minute actually. Really enjoyed kind of like the eerie horror in there, and some of his books actually talk about a horror in the water. I feel this was very, very similar. I feel like this book, Our Wives Under the Sea, was almost like a modern day Lovecraft piece of work, especially with how Leah's perspective is written, as if like she's writing to the reader and like writing this last letter before she passes away. It really does give off Lovecraft vibes, especially with the very ending. If I went into it having that comparison in mind, I would have enjoyed this book a lot more. As it was, because I had different expectations, with it being more Into the Drowning Deep based, kind of was a bit of a letdown. I still enjoyed it, but I went into it expecting one thing and got something else, which is not the book's fault at all. And if I ignore that, it was a very well crafted piece of work, and I enjoyed the aspect of this being a modern day Lovecraftian piece of work. I love that. I love seeing the inspirations behind works, whether it was an actual inspiration or not. It was definitely an influence, and I enjoyed all of that. But yeah, it's just a shame about what I wanted. So if I go based on what I wanted from the book, with it being more Into the Drowning Deep vibes, then this is a pass, because it did not deliver on that. However, if I talk about the book for itself, I'm gonna say this is more of a smash, because it did what it did well. Like, the exploration of grief is really well done in here. Horror aspect to it, it wasn't an in-your-face horror. It's definitely more of a Lovecraftian horror. So I would say smash for that. I read it and wanted something different. So I'm gonna say a light smash, like a little peck on the lips. We're gonna leave it at that. It wasn't a bad book. I just went into it with the wrong expectations, which is a bit of a shame. But that's it. Only 3 ebooks this month. I did have a bit of a break from ebooks for a little bit, and I'm currently in one at the minute. I like reading ebooks, but I need a break every so often. Anyway, that's the tangent. Let's get through the rest of these books. Normally I actually start off with DNFs, and I forgot. So I have one DNF for the month, and that's Solo Dance by Lee Kotomi. This was translated from Japanese by Arthur Reggie Morris, and I got 60% of the way through, so I'm up to page 152. I think this book is going to be such a good book for somebody else. I think this could be a book that someone connects to really, really well. We're following our main character, Chonori, and she is a lesbian living in Japan that originally came from Taiwan. And this book is an exploration about being a lesbian during these cultures where they're not as accepting, really exploring that. She talks a lot about the fact that she thought it was a disease for a long time, that she thought something was wrong with her. Some of the things that have happened to her, she believes only happened because she was a lesbian, and so she blames it for a lot of things, and it's just like, well, if I was just normal, these things wouldn't happen to me. And it explores present day with her dealing with the office environment that she's working in while being a lesbian, but also her childhood. But you don't get strict timelines in this, it's just as she's thinking about it. You then go into some journal entries from when she was younger, and I do think this is going to be a really, really impactful book. It was really well done. It explores a lot of things, but it's a very heavy book. As much as this is easy to read, like it is so easy to read, the formatting of this book is great. I did find it quite heavy at times to read, and I think because for me, I went into this knowing that this is going to be an okay read, but I'm never going to reread this book. I then put it down during the middle of my 24-hour readathon. I just never got back round to picking it up, and then I kept telling myself, well, I'll pick it up before the end of June, but then I would be more excited about other books, and I just never got to it. And it's not because it's bad in any way, it's just because I couldn't connect to this. And for me, with contemporary books, I only tend to really enjoy them if I can connect to them. And if I can't connect to a contemporary book, then I know I won't reread it, and it's gonna end up being unhauled, and it's just not something I'm enjoying. So unfortunately, this is a pass, and I will be unhauling it, but I do think it's such an important read, and somebody else would really get a lot from this. That was the only DNF. Oh, and I did do my 24-hour readathon. Let's run through those books. So for those of you that don't know, I host a bi-monthly 24-hour readathon. It's called Takuyo Readathon. It is very chill though, so you don't have to do it in 24 hours, you do it whatever you want with it. This month, the 24-hour readathon did not go the way I wanted it to. I normally put aside a whole day where I just read and relax and don't do anything else, and I couldn't do that this time. I had to split it over 2 days, and I did not enjoy it. I did get a fair few bits read. So obviously I read 60% of Solo Dance. I also read Meet Angelina Ballerina, which was literally a 20-page children's book. This took me probably about 5 minutes to read because it's just beautiful illustrations with a little bit of text, and you're just meeting Angelina Ballerina, who is a mouse who loves ballet. And it was just delightful. I loved this book. I used to read these as a child growing up, really enjoyed them, and I loved seeing how much that this book and this art styles really influence things, because it's still an art style that I love to today. So yeah, this was a smash. It was a delight. It was so cute and definitely needed. I also finished my reread of Vicious by V. Schwab during that 24-hour readathon, and I very much enjoyed my reread. I ended up tabbing a few different things, so we'll just go through that briefly. I had a very pale orange, and this is for jealousy and obsession, and this was mainly from Victor's perspective. So this is a book where we're following 3 main characters, but you only really get their perspectives for that one section, and then it changes to somebody else. So the first section, you are meeting Victor. Now Victor is someone that goes to Yale University. He has his best friend Eli, and they are ridiculously smart. However, they start getting a little bit obsessed with EOs, who are extraordinary people, basically people with extra gifts, think X-Men. But Victor is incredibly jealous and equally obsessed over Eli, so I really wanted to mark that and track that. I think that was a really good thing to do. And then we have this kind of like greeny blue, and that's just quotes I love, like normal. And then we have this darker blue, and that was for references to Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I really do think there's influence from both Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in this book. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde more focuses on Eli. There are a lot of references to Eli having this monster within and how it's always trying to get free, and this kind of dual personality. And then Frankenstein, because of what's going on, so you have these 2 people that are obsessed with extraordinaries. They then decide that they want to go and create their own extraordinaries, and there are a series of events that happen, which if you know Frankenstein, it's very, very similar to that. So I think it was really good. I loved seeing all those connections. Final tab that I did was this light blue, and that's for faith and justification, and that's when we get into Eli's perspective. Eli's perspective is at the end of this novel. You're seeing how he uses his faith and religion to justify his actions, and it was very interesting. I think it was very deluded, but I enjoyed it. And the third and final perspective that you get in this book is Sydney. She's kind of in the middle, and you see how she's getting caught up with these 2 boys, and how, well, actually I should say men, swiftly got out of control. This book also has 2 different timelines going on in each of the perspectives. So starting off with Victor, you have 10 years ago when they're at university together, and then you have like last night. So it's really interesting. I love the way it's formatted. The chapters are really short in here. Some of them are just 2 pages long. Feels really quick to read. I really enjoyed this. It really is, and I will say it every time, it's X-Men but make it darker, and we've got morally grey characters. No one is a good character in this book, absolutely no one, but it's a good time to read. And then the last book I read for the 24-hour readathon is Sinister Spring by Agatha Christie. This is a collection of her short stories. There are 12 in here. Two of them I had already read because I have a different short story collection, which is all about Miss Marple, which is the Tuesday Club Murders. I enjoyed this. This was really fun. I got to see Tommy and Tuppence for the first time. There was only one short story involving them, but I loved it. Their banter, just the way that they interact with one another was fantastic. You also have a few short stories from Hercule Poirot's collection and a few just random ones that didn't involve any of our detectives but were just a lot of fun. Just different murder mysteries or even just mysteries. Not all of them had murder involved. It was a good fun time. I really enjoyed this and I can't wait to get the rest of these seasonal collections. I think it's beautiful, and so that was a smash. Oh, by the way, this was a smash. It was a reread, so obviously it was a smash, but I forgot to say. So both of these were a smash. So overall, the readathon reading wise was very good. I've enjoyed all the books. Okay, so with the 24-hour readathon out the way, we have a host of other books. There is one book that I've finished, but I'm not talking about it yet because that's going to be part of a different vlog. So that will be in July's wrap up. But let's talk about all the ones that I can talk to you about. So we have The Goblin Emperor, and this is by Catherine Edison, and this was a gift from Naomi, so thank you so much. This was a smash. I really liked this. I was hesitant going into it because I've heard it was a political fantasy, kind of cozy, but that the names were really difficult to pronounce. And upon reading it, actually, it wasn't that bad. The names of certain places, yes, were difficult to pronounce, but the actual names of people was very manageable, actually. I didn't think it was too bad. This one, we're following our main character, and he is the Goblin Emperor. He was never meant to become emperor. He had older brothers, his father was alive, until there is this accident that happens that then makes it so that he is now emperor. He is now having to deal with everything that comes alongside being emperor, all the politics, maneuvering that you've got to try and do with different people who want different things, all the backstabbing and everything. He's overwhelmed. He's only 18 and he's not been raised or prepared for this, and he's realizing how underprepared he actually is. And it's also a look at like loneliness as well, and dealing with the fact that being an emperor, you can't really have friends because you can't show favoritism, that you can't do certain things, otherwise people will just take advantage of you. And it's not really a plot-driven book. There is nothing that really happens. Yes, you have the event that his father and brothers all died, and there are certain things that happen in this book to help the pacing go along, but there isn't anything major that happens. It is a lot more just day-to-day stuff, like deciding what to wear, deciding, well, I don't really understand this business, or I want to go to this funeral, but all the political things that are attached to all of this. It ended up being such a cozy, comforting read. Even though some of the topics are a little bit heavier, it didn't feel heavy. It was just a really comforting book, and this is definitely one that I can say when I need that comfort, this is going to be one that I pick up. I really enjoyed this one. It was a really nice political fantasy with a lovely character that you can't help but feel for, and it's really relatable and understandable, and I really enjoyed this one. So thank you so much, Naomi. This was fantastic, and thank you to everyone on my Discord who voted for this one. I was stuck between two different books and this is the one that won, so thank you for voting. Speaking of Lovecraft, I read the Lovecraft Compendium. This is by H.P. Lovecraft. This is a collection of short stories all based around, well, they all kind of connect together. So you've got things like The Call of Cthulhu and other short stories, and they all do connect together really well. I think the order that you read this in is perfect. Each subsequent short story relates back to the short story you've just read in a small way, but it works really well. And there are similar things about each of these short stories. So you're following people who are writing this final letter, and they're detailing something that they've witnessed or something that they've researched and stumbled across, and it's all to do with like cults and monsters, and it's so good. But it is all in what you do not know. It is all in the eerie atmosphere. It is done so well. You never really know exactly what's going on, and I think that lends to the horror aspect of this. So this was a smash. I loved it. I thought it was so well done. Would highly recommend giving this a try. I definitely want to try some of his longer works now. I honestly thought I wouldn't. I don't know why. I just got into my mind that I wouldn't enjoy this one, but I did. I enjoyed this one a lot. I thought it was really well done. And then we have another horror book. Honestly, I've read 4 horror books in June. I don't know what to say to you, but some are horror, seems to be the thing. A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher is another horror book that I read, and I was very much creeped out by this one. It definitely lived up to horror, but I would say that's because I don't like bugs. This is a book that is a suburban horror. It all takes place in this house. We're following a main character who goes back to live with her mum for a little while, but she finds things have gone really weird at home, and there are just some really unusual things that are going on. Bugs are a big part of this. Now actually, partly because the character that we're following, Sam, she is a bug archaeologist, which I didn't know was a thing, but it is a thing. And so obviously you have a lot of her like just love for bugs and stuff, but then you actually get into the horror part of the bugs. Yeah, it's gross. It is absolutely gross. It's disgusting. But it worked really well for the slow creeping horror of it all. And I think because it was more suburban and it's taken place in America, it's very hot and everything, it just works for summer really well. But yeah, this was very creepy. Based on it being a horror book, and that's the whole point of it, it's a smash. Aren't you meant to be creeped out with horror books? I think it worked really well, so that was another smash. And actually the last couple of books are also smashes. So we have Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford, and this was gifted to me again by Naomi for my birthday. Thank you so much. This was another book that I loved, so this is another smash. This was so good. So this is more like a steampunk fantasy, and we're following an array of main characters, but they're all connected together. They're all part of the same family, and they are within this guild, within this empire. The empire it's not doing the best. It's not run by somebody that's great. He's kind of silly. But the empire itself has kind of moved away from their dragon religion to artifacts and artificers, and more focusing in on machinery and kind of things that they can see and touch with their eyes rather than the faith and religion. However, there is another, I call it another country, so we're going to stick with that because it's easier to explain for me, has not lost their faith. However, their faith is what this empire calls demonic. Their religion and faith is a lot more harsher, it's a lot more to do with sacrifices and stuff, and so the empire sees it as unnatural. And we start seeing a little bit more of them. You also get a bit more of the different places in this world, the way the empire has just kind of started going into places to be like, well, we're taking over this place, we don't care about the indigenous people that are here, we don't care about the wildlife, and we're not going to bother taking the time to learn any of this stuff, we're just going to take what we want because we're owed it. And you start seeing different perspectives of, you know what, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. And I really enjoyed this book. Our poor main characters though, at the end of this book, everything is going wrong. Everything is so wrong for all of our main characters, and I cannot wait to continue. This was such a good book. I absolutely loved it. R.S. Ford's definitely an author I want to read more of their work now. They have quite a big backlist, so I cannot wait to read the second one and then read more of their work. It was so good. It was such a good epic fantasy, and I loved the steampunk elements to this. It was so good. So definitely more people need to read this one. I loved it. It's probably my favourite book that I've read this month. Maths is smash, and once again thank you to Naomi. And the last book that I read for the month of June I actually finished yesterday, and that's The Promised Neverland Volume 3. I really enjoy this manga series. So we're following a group of kids that live in this orphanage until they find out that the orphanage, there is a lot of darker things going on and they're trying to escape. I really enjoyed this one. I loved seeing their plans and how at the end of it, yeah, things aren't going so well. There's been a few hiccups, and I don't know, I really enjoy this one. I like it. I can't wait to see where it's going to go with the rest of the series, so that's another smash. So there we are. Overall, this month has been a really good reading month. I don't think I've had any passes apart from 2, which is 1 ebook and 1 DNF. DNFs are always an automatic pass for me. That's really good. It has been such a good reading month, and I've discovered a new genre that I really like for summertime, which I'm really surprised at. My camera really cut out on me, so it's obviously time to wrap this video up. But yeah, it's been a really good reading month. Please let me know what you've read in June. If you're interested in reading any of these books that I've mentioned, all the usual things, let me know. If you've made it this far, then let's put a ghost in the comments below. As we know, horror has been the thing this month, and it's been really good. Technically, none of these books have had ghosts in. Well, saying that, one sort of could be argued. Yeah, let's stick with ghosts. Let's put a ghost in the comments below if you've made it this far, and thank you so much for watching. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it that thumbs up, subscribe and comment. Those 3 things really help this channel grow. My social media links, anyone I've mentioned, will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the very next video.